Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Overview. Jason Dezen is walking home through the chilly Chicago streets one night, looking forward to a quiet evening in front of the fireplace with his wife Daniela and their son Charlie when his reality shatters. Are you happy with your life? Those are the last words Jason Dezen hears before the masked abductor knocks him unconscious. Before he awakens, he finds himself strapped to a gurney, surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits, before a man Jason's never met smiles down at him and says, "Welcome back, my friend." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife, his son was never born, and Jason is not an ordinary college physics professor, but a celebrated genius who has achieved something remarkable, something impossible. Is it this world or the others that's the dream? And even if the home he remembers is real, how can Jason possibly make it back to the family he loves? The answer lies in a journey more wondrous and horrifying than anything he could have imagined. One that will force him to confront the dark parts of himself, even as he battles a terrifying, seemingly unbeatable foe. Review. The writing. In about 300 pages, the first thing you'll notice about Crouch's prose is that he writes in almost single sentences, which makes reading through this fly. I'm no English doctor, so I'm sure there's some reason for it. Maybe it's in playwright form, but it seems to only keep when focusing on the first-person perspective of the main character. It really keeps you moving, though, even during the high-act moments. The plot. This is a typical story of the multi-universe where one can get lost in the science and logic. Crouch puts just enough science in it to make it believable enough and hurts your head with enough logic, or lack thereof, to keep the purpose of the story from going astray. Sometimes when reading these types of stories and the story stalls or the reader's attention, when the main character either takes too much time before experiencing the multiverse or too much time not believing he's experiencing the multiverse, was slightly what's experienced here. What this book does is that it, to use an overused expression, provides a roller coaster. That is not to say that the time between exposition and action isn't done well, as the author really does hold tension well and releases it. The type of main character we follow necessitates a need not to be super Rambo. The roller coaster is this book follows the tropes of a multi-universe story, but what it turns out to be is a really great story of a loving relationship. One of a man for his wife, a man for his son, and a man for his family. The relationships. The book really shines in the last third, which almost makes the story seem like two different stories. The somewhat focus on the family storyline is there in the first two-thirds of the book, but the emphasis isn't there as much. I'm not sure if this is a deficiency as much as it is purposeful. Whatever way, the reward is the finale. My only qualm with the portion is there are a few lines towards the end where Crouch doesn't seem to trust the audience enough to get the point he's making, and there's almost a Full House wrap-up explanation of, just like in life, it's about the choices you make. I guess this could follow the feeling of the main character and the need to express this sentimentality, but it did feel very Saturday morning cartoon lesson. There's also more of a focus on the main character's relationship with his wife and less on his son. As a sucker for a good father-son story, it would have been nice to hear more pining for his son and the relationship he had with him. Why does God need a Tesseract? What we don't find discussed at all is how the makeup of the multiverse includes all permutations just happens to come about. There's no discussion of God. A similar type of storyline would be the classic TV show, Quantum Leap. Even there, the writers, writing back in the 90s, when you still had to think about these things, attributed the clearly not random leaping of Sam Beckett was because of God, time, or whatever. Here, even the world between worlds, there are rules that govern outcomes. To be fair, the glancing over a lot of the timey-wimey sciencey stuff is on purpose, but this type of infinite worlds is a needed characteristic for evolutionists who come to beat the odds for random mutation to come up with a world in which we live in. The reader should be aware there is some cursing and sex outside of marriage in an affair type of way. The character knowingly sleeps with a parallel version of his wife, who is not his wife. The wife is unknowingly does so with the version of her husband she doesn't know is her husband. The outcomes are pretty much hand-waved away in the last act of the book and seem to undercut the ultimate theme of the book of love, for the one knows no bounds. In a world of infinite rolls of the dice, what are relationships and love other than just the universe bouncing molecules together? What are relationships without a creator? What is marriage without the covenant maker? Summary. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch is really a great example of what sci-fi is supposed to do. Provide a lesson or a touch point for life we live in a story that allows for the drama of the paranormal. What starts out as a multiverse story turns into a multiverse multiverse story with a really good relationship and life choices matter story. Would really recommend the story with the caveat that if you find the story just a normal story of the multiverse, that the payout is the latter half. Final grade, A-.